In the cutthroat world of Roman politics, personal vendettas often overshadowed larger ideals. Few rivalries were as fierce or as deadly as that between Marcus Tullius Cicero and Mark Antony. Cicero, the brilliant orator and staunch defender of the Republic, delivered a series of scathing speeches known as the Philippics against Antony, accusing him of tyranny and corruption. Antony, a military leader with deep ties to Julius Caesar, was enraged by Cicero's attacks, and when the opportunity for revenge came, he seized it without hesitation. Cicero's name was placed at the top of the proscription lists, and in 43 BCE, he was brutally executed. But was Cicero's death merely a political necessity, or was it personal? Let's explore why Mark Antony made it his mission to destroy Cicero, and how personal vendettas shaped the bloody world of Roman politics. After Julius Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE, the power vacuum in Rome was palpable. Antony, as Caesar's closest ally and a leading figure in the aftermath, sought to position himself as the dominant force in Roman politics. Cicero, who had long opposed autocracy, viewed Antony as the greatest threat to the Republic and launched a series of speeches attacking him. Cicero's Philippics, modeled after Demosthenes' speeches against Philip of Macedon, were designed to sway the Senate and the Roman people against Antony. In these speeches, Cicero painted Antony as a violent, corrupt tyrant who sought to destroy the Republic in the same way Caesar had. His rhetoric was powerful, striking at the heart of Antony's character and questioning not only his political motives, but also his personal integrity. For Antony, these speeches were more than just political attacks. They were deeply personal insults. Cicero had not only challenged Antony's legitimacy as a leader, but had humiliated him in front of the Senate and the Roman people. Antony, a man of action and military power, was not accustomed to being ridiculed by words alone, and Cicero's attacks cut deep. The Philippics turned a political rivalry into a personal vendetta. By the time Cicero delivered the Philippics, the Republic was on the verge of collapse, and new power players were emerging. Antony, along with Octavian, Julius Caesar's adopted heir, and Lepidus, formed the Second Triumvirate in 43 BCE, creating a three-man dictatorship to control Rome and eliminate their enemies. One of the first acts of the Second Triumvirate was the creation of the Proscriptions, essentially hit lists targeting those who opposed their rule. Cicero's name was at the top of these lists, marked for death by Antony himself. The Proscriptions were framed as a political necessity to stabilize Rome. But Cicero's inclusion was driven as much by Antony's thirst for revenge as by any political strategy. For Antony, the Philippics had crossed a line. Cicero had not only attacked his political position, but had publicly undermined his authority and character. In Antony's eyes, Cicero had to pay for this humiliation with his life. The Proscriptions provided Antony the perfect opportunity to eliminate his most vocal critic in a way that appeared politically justified. But beneath the political veneer, it was clear that this was personal. In December of 43 BCE, Cicero was captured by Antony's soldiers while trying to flee Rome. His execution was brutal. His head and hands were severed and displayed in the Roman Forum, an unmistakable message to anyone who dared to challenge Antony's power. The gruesome display of Cicero's remains in the Forum was more than just a political statement. It was Antony's personal victory. The severed hands symbolized the silencing of Cicero's eloquent speeches, and the decapitated head was a clear message that no amount of rhetoric could save him from Antony's wrath. Antony wanted Cicero's death to be a public spectacle, a reminder of what happens to those who dare to cross him. According to ancient sources, Cicero reportedly accepted his fate with dignity, stretching out his neck and telling his executioners to strike quickly. In death, Cicero became a martyr for the Republic, but Antony had achieved his goal. He had silenced his most vocal opponent once and for all. Cicero's execution highlights the brutal reality of Roman politics, where personal rivalries often had deadly consequences. The political landscape of the late Republic was not just shaped by grand ideals or institutional struggles, but by the personal grudges and vendettas of powerful individuals. Cicero's death was not the only example of personal enmity shaping Roman political decisions. The Proscriptions targeted many individuals who had made enemies of the Triumvirs, with political disagreements often escalating into violent reprisals. In a system where power was determined by alliances and rivalries, personal vendettas became an inescapable part of political life. Antony's decision to kill Cicero was driven as much by personal rage as by any political calculation. Cicero's death didn't necessarily strengthen Antony's position in any practical sense, but it served to satisfy Antony's need for revenge. The personal grudge Antony held against Cicero outweighed any potential benefits of keeping him alive. In times of political instability, such vendettas often took precedence over pragmatic governance. Given the nature of Roman politics at the time, could Cicero have done anything to avoid his fate? Some argue that Cicero's relentless attacks on Antony in the Philippics were reckless, especially given Antony's military power and influence. Others believe that Cicero's death was inevitable, as his opposition to Caesar and Antony had made him too many powerful enemies. Once Cicero delivered the Philippics, there was likely no turning back. Antony's pride and sense of honor were deeply wounded, and Cicero's words had struck at the very core of Antony's legitimacy. Cicero, a master of rhetoric, had made himself Antony's most dangerous opponent, not through force of arms, but through the power of words. In Antony's world, this was a challenge that could only be answered with violence. Cicero's belief that he could rally the Senate and the people against Antony may have been his fatal miscalculation. The Republic was too fractured, and Antony's power was too great. By making Antony a personal enemy, Cicero sealed his own fate, and there was little he could do to escape the inevitable consequences of his words. Cicero's execution was more than just a political assassination. It was the culmination of a bitter personal rivalry that had spiraled out of control. Mark Antony's inclusion of Cicero in the Proscriptions was not merely a political necessity. It was a deeply personal act of revenge. Cicero's scathing Philippics had humiliated Antony in public, and Antony was determined to make Cicero pay the ultimate price for his defiance. The personal vendetta between Cicero and Antony offers a window into the darker side of Roman politics, where personal grudges and political ambitions often collided with deadly results. In a world where power and pride were inseparable, Cicero's death serves as a reminder of how personal enmity can drive political decisions and lead to brutal outcomes in times of political instability. If you found this exploration of the rivalry between Cicero and Antony compelling, be sure to like and subscribe for more engaging content on history and politics. Share your thoughts in the comments below about how personal vendettas impact political decisions today. Let's dive into the conversation.